this video is for the students, who are facing difficulty in learning physics and are the students in class 11th and 12th. So I've been teaching this for a long time now, and I see a lot of frustration in the student community, especially class 11th and 12th when it comes to physics learning. So I've created this video cast which I recorded and hopefully you will find it useful. तो अगर आपके बच्चे को फिज़िक्स सीखने में दिक्कत आ रही है तो आप इस वीडियो को ध्यान से सुनिए. इसके अंदर महत्वपूर्ण इम्पॉर्टेंट स्टेप्स बताए गए हैं कि बच्चे क्या गलती करते हैं. फ़िज़िक्स एक आसान सब्जेक्ट है जिसको मुश्किल बना दिया गया है, और वो क्यों मुश्किल हो गया है, कैसे उसको आसानी से पढ़ें, हाउ डू यू लर्न इट ईजिली, and what are the essential steps or the approach you need to learn physics properly have been explained in this video. So enjoy this video and share it with your children, with the students whom you know are in class 11th, 12th preparing for JEE or NEET or school level physics. So hopefully you will enjoy this video, and please do share your feedback after you implement some of the recommendations on how to learn physics. Thank you very much. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, namaskar, adab. Welcome to the a very important topic which we can discuss today. And a lot of students are bombarded with the knowledge of physics and numericals, and they have home tutors, they have classes going on in their coaching classes, they also study in school. The end result of all of this is zero. The student is not able to understand physics, and this is all pervasive in the country. Everywhere you go you have the same problem. After 10 months of physics, you realize you stand nowhere, and you have this panic attack and anxiety as to how physics will be cleared in 11th and 12th standard, and that has given me the motivation to help the students understand how to solve problems in physics, especially when they transition from 10th to 11th standard. Physics can become a big shock, and a lot of bright students also are not able to solve the problems of physics in 11th and 12th standard, and they've been doing well in 10th standard, but suddenly their performance decreases in 11th and 12th standard. So I'll give you some tips today as to how to solve and work the physics problems. There is a systematic way you have to think, and physics can be intimidating, physics can be challenging, but learning physics is not that difficult. You can still overcome this challenging subject provided you have a strategy in place. So I'll give you tips on how to study physics. I will give you tips on how to solve a numerical problem, and what is the correct way to study this subject, where most of the students in 11th, 12th standard are very discouraged, and the parents and students have a feeling why we took this subject at all. We should have taken commerce, or we should have taken arts, or we should have taken maybe something else. So seeing those frustrations of parents and the students, I decided to come out with this video lecture where I will try to explain you how you can study physics. So let me just start with the problem statement. So many students come to me, and they're late, obviously, and the first thing I realize which is missing is they have no conceptual knowledge, and the students are telling me, I can understand the concept, but I cannot solve the problem. I cannot. Some students come back and say, I cannot even understand the concept. Some students come and tell me, what is concept? So they don't know the basic definition of concept. What is a concept? And forget the understanding of the concept itself. And these are the challenges which students come to me with. And having taught this subject for many years, and I thought I should share this, the lines of frustration that come from student. So let me just take you through the journey of what goes wrong in 11th standard, especially when you move from 10 to 11th standard. Nobody tells you how to study. So you follow your same old methodology, where you pick up a book, you memorize, and you go and give the exam. Unfortunately, 11th standard, the old tactics of 10th standard science don't work anymore. The 11th standard is quite a big league, or a leap from you were in 10th standard. And same is the case with 12th standard. 12th standard, the volume is incredible. The amount of study, the amount of chapters you have to do is, a lot. And a lot of subjects are, inspired from engineering studies. So that makes it very difficult for a student transitioning from 11th to 12th standard, how to handle the volume, how to handle the complexity of the topic, and especially coming from engineering line. Let me just give you some pointers as to what is a fundamental, what are the mistakes being done by the students. So the number one mistake is the students are studying physics in an incorrect manner. The class 11th and 12th standard students are not studying the way physics is to be studied. And I told you the reason. Nobody tells them how to study physics, and therefore they continue with their same old strategy. Attend the coaching class, the home tutor, and that's about it. And maybe they have some school lectures also going on, but they're not able to assimilate the knowledge. And I'll go one by one. What is the problem? See, the first problem is most of the students are depending on the solved question to understand the physics. So you have a solved question, and then you only do that. There is a fixed pattern. After 4 questions, you're able to solve the 5th one, and you start believing that doing solved questions only is the answer to learning physics. It is not. You cannot learn physics if you just do solved questions. The second is you're not concentrating on theoretical discussion. There is a huge amount of description given in NCERT and many other books. That description has to be read line by line. If you ignore the description or read it in bits and parts, you will never be able to understand physics. So concentrate on the theoretical descriptions. You have to master the theoretical description. Then another mistake which students are doing is they are thinking physics to be like mathematics. Physics is not mathematics. Obviously, you need to have logic and reasoning, and you must be strong in mathematics, not very strong, reasonably strong to be able to solve a physics numerical, which is of high complexity, not of simple, standard. But don't assume physics to be mathematics. So just continuously spending time on doing, numericals, thinking it's some maths, some formulas are there. You have to, fit some, parameters in the formula. That's not the way you study physics. You cannot just focus on maths of physics. It is an important component, but not the only component. The fourth problem is students are memorizing derivation. Now, derivations are difficult because they are mathematical in nature. Some description is available. And instead of understanding the derivation, students are, just remembering the derivations, not understanding the derivation. A derivation is simple, but it's difficult to understand. So take time out to understand the derivation. Just don't memorize it and just go and repeat it in your exam paper. The other reason you're not able to understand physics is you don't have conceptual material. Any conceptual material will help you understand the situation asked for in the exam. So you're not able to understand the situation. If you have a question of kinematics or optics or electromagnetics, before you start writing down the answer, first of all, you must have concepts. And concepts are built using conceptual material. Conceptual material is different from formulas. It is different from derivation. It is different from equations. Conceptual is something which helps you bring closer to reality. So first come closer to reality. That is what is, conceptual part of physics and the most important part. You must be able to understand the situation and the overall context in the question to be able to start it. Spend 1 or 2 minutes thinking about the situation given in the question. And when you're studying physics, first of all, understand the situations while you are reading the theory, while you're understanding the formula. And then a lot of students came to me, a month ago, after 11 months they spent in their schools, trying to, complete the whole course in a month's period. And some students were even waiting for last day. Now, physics is not like English or other subjects where you can memorize and cram up the whole physics at the last day and just go and repeat it. That doesn't work in physics. You need a concentrated effort of 300 plus hours a year of your own, apart from school, to be able to learn physics. This must be your personal effort of 300 hours. So last minute cramming, for example, will not work in physics. Then a lot of students do not appear for practice test. If you don't appear for practice test, how will you ever know what's your weakness? So appear for practice test. It's very important. The other reason I found students are not able to understand physics is because they don't have access to a study group. They are not working in a group. So if you're 5 students sharing questions and answers with each other, your cooperative style will help. Please don't use this for gossiping. The purpose is that your cooperative style should result in improvement in your knowledge. And then, of course, one of the reason, which is an incorrect way, is you start learning physics by picking up the most difficult question. So do not pick up the most difficult question from day one. Don't try to solve books like Erudov. It's a waste of time. It's not meant to teach you anything. They are meant for masters. So they're for different level altogether. So these are the incorrect physics problem and studying approaches. Do not adhere to these. I hope these made sense to you in some way. Let me go to the next part of this, where I'll try and explain you what is the correct approach to problem solving. Now, if you have a physics as a subject which is challenging, intimidating, difficult, demoralizing, and you want to run away from it, do not despair. So you have a way to overcome this challenge. The first thing is focus on conceptual material. So if you have conceptual material, it helps you to connect to the concept and reality. If you have living examples of your, what you study, it's easy to connect to the subject. If you can see real life examples, it's easy. So you can do some Google search, you can go to videos you can find where you see what is a practical application and the context of the topic you're studying. Visualize the problem. Visualize. If you can't draw a picture in your mind of the question or the topic you're studying, you will not be able to solve the problem. Visualization is very important to build a concept. So any source of material, which is physics labeled on it, should be able to help you visualize the problem. Then you must work with physics principles. You must memorize, remember, write down, the physics principles you learned in a chapter, understand them thoroughly. Then, of course, is the execution part, where now you understand the concept, you can visualize, you can label the diagram, you can easily rephrase or mention the physics principle. The next step is mathematical procedure. So there is an execution plan. You have to convert your physics problem into a solution, and the middle step is the mathematical the procedure. And then when you read the problem, a problem has a lot of data inside it. So identify the data. They will give you mass, acceleration, current, resistance, so on and so forth. So you should be able to identify the information and organize it correctly. All this put together, the concept, the connection with the concept and reality, visualization, helps you understand the situation as to what's happening in the question. What are they describing in the question? A ball is being thrown. How will it travel? Visualize it. Understand the gravity is responsible. Just as an example. Second, correct approach to study and solve physics problem. You must have studied theory thoroughly and master the theory, because that is where the whole the formula resides as to how the situation is happening. Somebody saw the situation, somebody created a theory out of that, and it is important to read every line in your book. You cannot ignore physics theory. Even if it is boring, you have to study it repetitively. Then you have to master some methods and techniques. So as you progress in physics, you will come across some methods of solving the question, and there are techniques to solve the question, which are more mathematical in nature, but you have to do that. Then you have a concept of logic and order. So remember, physics is a subject of reasoning. So there has to be a logic. You have to get to the logic. You cannot just make it a mathematical exercise, or you just cannot say that we will not follow any specific order in solving the problem. The order is there. You have to have understanding of the situation. You must have theoretical knowledge. You must understand maths, which is methods and techniques. So that order is there. Sometimes the chain can be long, so the logic can be hidden because a problem is very long. So you have to take longer paths to be able to solve it. Then let's talk about how you study physics. You have to study the topic before you enter your class. So if your teacher is planning to teach you a topic like mechanics or kinematics or whatever, first thing you have to do is to study the topic on your own from the book. Just don't depend on your teacher to do everything for you. This will set you to failure. Don't do that. And then don't miss any class. A lot of students start missing physics class because they are finding it very difficult to understand. Don't miss. Sit in the class, attend. The teacher will give you very good notes, very good descriptions. Do not miss your classes. If you start missing the classes, you will gradually slip in the subject. That's a nature of this subject. It is challenging, it is intimidating, and it can force you to stop missing the classes altogether. And you will obviously not be able to clear your exam if this is your approach. If you're given homework, complete your homework. A homework is the best way to apply what you learned and maybe identify your weaknesses. And you must ensure that before you are appearing for the exams, your notes are ready by topic, by lecture, by hour. So you must have complete notes. Don't run in the last day to get your Xerox and photocopies of the notes. The notes must be available to you. The practice test is another area of improvement. Most of the students run away from a practice test. They don't appear for a practice test because it will expose them. Don't be scared of practice test, because practice test will give you a lot of insight into where you stand. You can identify your area of weakness. So go ahead and do the practice test. Another important tip I can give you is you have to look at how experts solve the problem. So if you have an expert in the class, for example, who's a very good student, get his copy, study how he solves the problem, or ask him to show you how to solve a problem. If an expert is solving a problem, you can see how they think and how you think. You can see the difference in the thinking between you and the expert, and you can learn from them. Last but not the least, don't get discouraged by physics. If you're following these steps and you've understood, what are the incorrect approaches, and then you've understood what are the correct approaches, physics should not be very difficult. Most of the students after a period of 1 year realize this, wish they had followed these steps, and they would have scored 70 on 70. So let me just give you some idea on how to approach this in steps, stepwise approach to problem solving. So if you have a problem in front of you, the first step is visualize the situation. I told you must be able to understand a diagram, label it, and visualize the situation. If a ball is going up and down, show it. Show the situation before and after, maybe after the ball has hit the ground, after the bullet has entered the mass, and some change has happened. So analyze the situations before and after situation. Some event happened because of which some change happened, and because of that you have to solve something. Determine the goal. So the last sentence of the question is always the goal. Find the kinetic energy. That's a goal. Keep a sharp focus on the goal, that you're trying to find kinetic energy, for example. And then after you've understood the situation, you understand the goal, now look back in your memory, which is your subconscious mind, and try and understand what information is required, what principles you learned in the chapter. Write down all the principles. I will recommend before you start your exam, write down all the principles you know of all the chapters, in the some time gap you get between the sheets are distributed, and you can spend 5-10 minutes just writing the principles and then refer to them. And then when you read the question, start picking up the data from the question. Now we're talking about execution. Pick up the data, find out what is missing, mention both in your answer. This is missing, this is available as a, and then you reach a point of confusion. Then, if you're practicing at home, you have done all of these steps, you get struck. What you have to do is you reach a point of confusion. You're not able to proceed, which means there is a flaw in your principle. There is a flaw in understanding the situation. Go back. So if you see the diagram, I have given you go back, confused student is going back and again following these steps, which are the first 4 steps. So if you're reaching point of confusion, it's good. The point of confusion is which will help you understand more and more. So physics is repetitive. You do it once, you don't understand. 4th, 5th time, you will be able to understand it. Once your point of confusion you're able to overcome, you may realize that you need more information. As an example, so try and find more information from the question. The purpose of going back to the problem statement, to understanding the situation, is to find out that more information is required. So collect more information, analyze that in detail, and you may be able to find more missing information, and that may help you solve the problem. Maybe your logic is faulty, your principle which you selected is faulty, maybe the chain of logic you applied one step after another, that is faulty. So you have to arrive at a point of confusion, and then you can go back to your steps and again start applying your logic and reasoning. I hope these steps were useful to you. And last but not the least, see, if you have to create a bright future in your, you want to be a doctor or an engineer, it is very important that you give your best. So if you're not giving your best to physics, probably you will get frustrated. Your target of becoming a doctor or an engineer will not be fulfilled. So it's very important that you give your best today and you create a bright future. I hope you enjoyed my video and you learned some very important approaches, the mistakes, as well as how to study physics and what are the steps you can take to solve a numerical. So if you like this video,